And hit record, and we're ready to go.
Okay, well, good evening, everyone, and welcome to the September 14th Mercer Island Arts Council special video meeting. The time is now 6:34. I'm Suzanne Scone, a member of the Arts Council. Amy Barnes, the board vice chair, appointed me to facilitate the meeting tonight in her place. We will be seeking a new chair and vice chair later in the meeting. Tonight's Arts Council meeting is using video conferencing technology provided by Zoom. The video of the meeting is being broadcast live via Zoom and will be uploaded to the city's YouTube channel later this week. City staff, liaisons, and Arts Council and other panelists are also participating in tonight's meeting remotely. Other public audience members may be listening to the meeting by telephone or online. Welcome to all, and thank you for joining us tonight. Board members, please ensure that your microphones are turned on for the roll call, and staff, will you call the roll?
Okay, Amy Barnes, Anu Meha.
Present.
Eric Gordon, Elizabeth Mitchell.
Present.
Rosemary Moore.
Present.
And Suzanne Scone.
Here.
Okay, so I'm actually going to take it over for a few minutes now. Sarah Blubus, Economic Development Coordinator for the city and staff liaison to the Arts Council. So before we get started with regular business, Ryan and I had a couple of items that we wanted to ask about. The first is to get your support to amend the agenda. We don't usually vote on the agenda, so this would just be a thumbs up, but we're requesting that we move the chair and vice chair conversation to the last item of regular business. So those Arts Council members who are in favor of that, open to that, if you'll give me a thumbs up, that would be helpful. Okay, terrific. Now a little more fun. So many of you probably noticed that we have some new faces on the screen with us today. We have two new Arts Council members who are joining us, Elizabeth Mitchell and Rosemary Moore. They were appointed on August 31st by City Council, and we're very excited to have them on board. Ryan and I had the chance to meet with each of them last week, and I think that they're going to be fantastic additions to the group. So welcome to Elizabeth and Rosemary. And we thought it would be helpful to do a round robin of introductions so everyone can at least say who they are, what their relationship to the Arts Council is, and if you have anything fun or interesting about the arts and yourself that you want to share, please do. So I'm going to go ahead and, because of the way my screen is set up, I am going to start with Elizabeth. Please introduce yourself.
Just put it right out there. So I'm Elizabeth Mitchell, and I was recruited by Aaron, and I'm really excited to be a part of this group. I think that I have a lot to contribute and a unique perspective. So my history is that I am a performer myself. I am a singer and a conductor. So my background is in that, but I also have worked for a symphony orchestra. So I've done all sides of the performing arts. So that's where I'm coming from. Yeah.
Great. Suzanne, you're up next.
Oh gosh, I don't have that kind of experience to share. Thank you for joining us, both of you, by the way. That's really exciting, and especially with your background there. So I just I've been on the Arts Council for a couple years, so I still feel like I'm just getting up to speed, especially considering the last year we kind of was a setback for us, you might say. And so I'm still learning all that the Arts Council does, and I'm really enjoying it. I enjoy the arts. I'm kind of a little bit of a jewelry maker, a little bit of a painter, but those are never a professional thing. I made my daughter's earrings for her wedding. So how's that? That's my contribution.
Great. Rosemary, we'll go to you next.
Hi, I'm Rosemary Moore, and like Elizabeth, I'm really excited to be joining and participating. Unfortunately, I am not a performer in any way. I'm just somebody who enjoys all types of arts a lot, and I would like to contribute and be involved in the arts on Mercer Island.
And Anumeha, you're next. Ooh, you're on mute.
Yes, I was on mute. Yeah, I'm Anumeha. I've been here with the council for 2 years, and like Suzanne, I also feel like there's much to learn. And I've enjoyed my time with the council, and what I do in free time is all the paintings that you see in the back. That's my hobby. I don't do it professionally, but that's what I do when I feel bored.
And then Salim, will you introduce yourself?
Yeah, of course. I'm Salim Neese. I'm the Mercer Island City Council liaison to the Arts Council. I think I've been the liaison since roughly 2018, I think, just right before Sarah joined. And, my role is to just interface with the City Council to support you in your discussions, your agenda bills back to the City Council, appropriations, updates to the City Council, and help with any sort of historical or institutional knowledge that you might have. I'm not a huge artist. People don't know this. I haven't really talked about my artistry in the past, but I'm more of a mechanical artist. I've built some lamps out of old things I found at garage sales, airplane parts, car parts, things like that. And I have a little bit of probably background to share with Rosemary, because I can tell by your accent that you're from England. I don't know where. I'm from Bromley myself. I moved to the United States in '79. So Southeast Londoner here with dual citizenship with England and the USA. And so my son has dual citizenship, kind of the last of the lineage to have that, but little connection there.
Well, thank you all for that. There are just, for new members who are on and everyone else, there are some staff members who are on the meeting tonight, as well as a couple of other outside panelists, and we'll have them just introduce themselves briefly as they join us tonight to speak. And then the last thing we wanted to do, Elizabeth mentioned her when she shared her introduction, but Erin Vivian's here with us tonight for the last time. We asked Erin to join the meeting tonight just so we could give a little thank you and a send off to her. Erin was our longest serving Arts Council member, and her term ended technically in May, but thankfully, or maybe not, it meant we didn't have any new members, but Erin was able to continue serving with us until a new member was appointed to her seat on August 31st. So Erin's been instrumental in very, very important pieces of the arts program. I think when she joined in 2014, she jumped into the public art collection and was doing a ton of work with bringing a lot of the really interesting stories of our public art collection to light through the story platform and other avenues. She also was the driving force behind the Arts and Culture Plan that was adopted as part of the city's comprehensive plan at the end of 2018. And she has a range of interests and advocacy that she's done, and she's just been a force for the Arts Council. I've really appreciated having her the entire time I've been with the city. She was one of the first people who I think I connected with the most in the Arts Council, and I really appreciate having her around the past few years to brainstorm crazy ideas, talk about, what could happen in the arts on the island. So, Erin, we just wanted you to, have one last opportunity to speak your truth about the arts, but really we just wanted a chance to say thank you before you go off and do other amazing things in your life.
Thank you, Sarah. Well, I have no large truth or anything planned to say, but I really appreciate and was hoping to get the opportunity to thank you all, because I don't know if that's historically accurate. I kind of feel like maybe I am the longest ever Arts Council member on Mercer Island, but I've basically been a member almost as long as I've lived here. So it's really like been a big part of my experience on Mercer Island. And I am so grateful for all the experiences and opportunities that I've gotten through my involvement. I mean, it's really, really extraordinary, the connections I've made and how much I've learned just about our city and the region and just how arts advocacy works. I just didn't even have any idea what was out there. And I'm so grateful because it's really led to a lot of what I'm doing now. And I'm thankful to all the members that I've met and all the friends that I've made. And I am really excited for like all that you guys have to do, because it's really a pivotal moment for the Arts Council and Arts on Mercer Island. I doubt there's ever been a time where like there's such a moment of forced like introspection where we have to like evaluate what we're doing. And I think it's going to be really good. And I apologize for my term ending right at this moment because there's a lot left to do, but I'm very, very confident everyone is going to take that momentum we were building on and just go with it. So thank you for letting me say goodbye. You guys have some good, exciting work to do. So thank you.
Thank you, Erin. And we always have committees. You can always.
And yes, I meant to say that. I am around. I'm not going anywhere. I'm also my last volunteer effort that I am still involved with since I've gone back to work is I'm on the board of the Washington Lawyers for the Arts now. So I'm going to still be involved in the arts, and I will be around if anyone needs me for a little bit of work.
And so just real quickly before you go, I want to personally thank you for your contributions. You know, I've been on the Arts Council for a number of years. I've seen a lot of people leave their fingerprints on the arts and the programming. But in particular, I think your fingerprints are going to be kind of indelibly linked to the comprehensive plan, the vision and kind of path forward for the Arts Council kind of 2.0. We've done a lot of things and gotten into territory that the prior Arts Councils really hadn't got into. And the vision, the directionality, some of the things that we got our toes wet with before the pandemic kind of shut us down, really excite and attract a lot of attention, I think. And if everybody on the Arts Council has a chance to go back and read what Erin worked on with staff, with the comprehensive plan, it is really instructive on where this Arts Council felt they want to go, what the vision is, how we might get there, and some of the creative kind of forward thinking that we hope to see in an aspirational document like that. So thank you very much for that.
Oh, you're welcome. Thank you. Yeah, and that's going to need some work post-pandemic too. Something to be revisited for sure.
Right.
All
Thank
right.
you, Erin.
Thanks, guys.
Okay, Suzanne, I'll kick it back to you.
All right. Well, our first item of regular business is to approve the minutes. Could I have a, let's see, would it be the last meeting or from the July 14th meeting? So do we have a motion from someone to approve the minutes for the July 14th meeting?
I make the motion.
Do I have a second?
I second.
Thank you. Is there any further discussions, changes or mistakes or anything in the minutes that we need to take care of? Okay, Sarah, can you do the roll call then?
And Amy Barnes, Ani Meha, can you unmute?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Eric Gordon, Elizabeth Mitchell,
Aye.
Rosemary Moore,
Aye,
and
although I
Suzanne-
wasn't at the meetings.
That's okay. And Suzanne Scone.
Aye.
Okay, great. Motion passes.
Okay. So the next thing on the agenda says Jesse provides an overview of the pros plan. So there she is. Hi, Jesse.
I'm here. Good evening, Arts Council, and a huge welcome to our new members. Thank you in advance for your service. Love to see the participation extending. My name is Jessie Bond. I'm the city manager for the city of Mercer Island. It's not often that I am leading the charge on a strategic plan, but I happen to be facilitating the Parks, Recreation, and Open Space Plan update and leading the staff team because I am the former Parks and Rec director and a former Parks and Rec director. And considering all that transpired over the last couple of years, the team needed some help and we were on a deadline. So this was an opportunity to step in. I will mention, I just came from curriculum night at West Mercer. My twins are in first grade and the first grade teacher was super exuberant. So I feel for like 45 minutes straight. So I feel like I need to up my game, my animation game. No, I won't torture you with that. Tonight, I do need to apologize. Normally when I come and speak about a plan, I have some slides to share. I had an accident this morning. I was attempting to be a good mother and cooking breakfast, and an unfortunate situation, I burned my left hand very badly. So I only have one wing all day today, and I just couldn't get a PowerPoint done. So I'm just going to share some high-level thoughts on where we are with the plan. Thank you. I apologize for the lack of structure. And then I'm going to screen share just a couple things that are in your packet. So here's the good news. You all have, and Salim, thank you for the fantastic tee up. You have an adopted arts and culture plan. It is your strategic plan. It was adopted in 2018, Sarah, or was it 2019?
2018.
18. And it is an appendix to the comprehensive plan. So the Arts Council has officially arrived. And normally in most cities, it's the exact opposite, where the Parks Plan is getting all the love and the Arts and Culture Plan either doesn't exist or hasn't been adopted yet. So you have a plan, and our goal is for arts to show up and be reflected in the Parks Strategic Plan update, but not to replace the Arts and Culture Plan, right? So there's a little dance we're doing between these two plans. So I'm telling you this because I don't believe it's necessary to do a really deep dive into the pros plan. What Sarah and I have done in drafting these chapters is just to make sure they're talking, right? So if it's in the arts and culture plan, we've got it summarized succinctly in the parks plan. So be thinking about that. And Sarah, if Sarah hasn't done this yet for the new members, and maybe it's just a good refresher for everyone, she'll send you the link to the arts and culture plan. And I do highly suggest you go through it. It was a major lift. Some of you were here for that. I know Salim was part of that effort too. So many plans, all our goal is to talk to each other. The other thing I will tell you about the parks plan is it's a 200+ page document in the end. And when we get the whole draft pulled together, which will probably be early November, we will send it to you. We will say, hey, take a look, let us know if you have any changes. And you're going to want to poke your eyeballs out because it's so long, right? Why do we need all this stuff, Jesse? Some of this plan is prescribed to us. Some of the contents and the format is prescribed by the state Recreation and Conservation Office. I'm just telling you this because that is the group we go to for a number of our parks grants. And so they say, Mercer Island, if you want to compete in this grant process, your plan has to have all of these components. So that's why it's so big. That's why it's got all the pieces. Tonight, we really just wanted to take a look at 2 chapters. They're in draft right now. They haven't been laid out with all the pretty pictures yet. So it's just text. The first one is chapter 4, which is our goals and objectives chapter. You're probably wondering what happened to chapters 1 through 3. 1 and 2 are done, 3 is almost done. We'll make sure we share those front end chapters with you in the future. So the goals and objectives, think about this as the high level guiding themes for Parks and Recreation. And let me go ahead and screen share here. All right. So this was in your packet. And there's a preamble, you know, what this chapter is about. Again, remember, some of this is because we have to put this text in there. So what we've developed, and we've taken one pass through so far with the Parks and Recreation Commission. And by the way, they're the lead board and commission for this planning process. They've given us a handful of edits, actually more than a handful, it was like 52. Anyway, so what we wanted to do tonight was to ask you, taking a look at these goals and objectives, do you have any suggested changes? So in each case, we've got a high-level goal followed by objectives that describe, you know, the outcome we're looking for. These aren't action items, right? They don't say go do this. That's another step down the road. But when you read this plan, you should get a general sense of, like in this section, this is planning, acquisition, and access, where our priorities are. How do we use these? Well, we use these primarily to guide our work. The council, once these are adopted, will use them to guide funding decisions across all lines of business. We also use them for grant applications. So some of these are very strategically written to assure grant agencies that these things are a priority to us. So I suspected, having not had a chance to talk to the chair in advance of this discussion, that you might want to focus on goal, I think it is number 6 or 7 now. Number 6. So these are the arts, this is the arts and culture goal along with corresponding objectives. Sarah helped develop these, and again, they were written to complement or actually mirror exactly or close to what's in the arts and culture plan. So I'm going to stop talking because I'm talking a lot. I would welcome any questions, thoughts, feedback. Is there an objective you want to revise, something that's missing? Sarah, did I miss anything in my opening there that you want to add?
No, Jesse, I think you covered it all from my perspective.
All right. So I will just say, last week I spent 4 hours with the Parks Commission and 52 specific revisions. So I want to make sure if you have anything, and if you don't have it for me tonight and you want to follow up in writing, that's totally acceptable too. I see Suzanne nodding. All right. Last call for goals and objectives. Edits. Oh, Elizabeth. Go, Elizabeth.
So I'm obviously brand new to this, and I don't know if this is the right place to talk about it, but I do have lots of ideas, and I think that there should be more. I think this is a wonderful start, but I think that there needs to be more specifics into the type of engagement that we want to do and how we want to bring arts and culture to Mercer Island and the community and what that looks like. And is this the right place to say that?
So it depends. If you remember, these are high level, right? So they don't tell us exactly what to do, but they guide the way in which we work. So with this plan, once it's adopted and the arts and culture plan already adopted, Sarah comes to you at some point in the year and says, and you set your work plan. And so I'm going to make something up. Your idea might be to add a painting class in the park. And so what we want to do is make sure that these high-level goals and objectives allow for the types of things and focus the work the way you intend it to do. So if you throw out an example, I can probably tell you if it belongs here, if it's a more specific work plan item that probably belongs in a different process.
And I'm happy to follow up by email as well. And I read through it all, but it's a lot to take in.
It is.
I just, of course, I'm coming more from the performing arts perspective of wanting to make sure that there's a place in the community for that. And so I think that big picture is, do we have a place And I think this will flow into the next item as well. But do we have a place where the arts can be performed on Mercer Island? And I think that that needs to be a really important big picture goal, to have that space identified. So that's a big picture.
So that is actually that. Oh, it's been a long day. So pulling the words out, I might struggle with. So that's probably something around facilities or spaces to host performances. Are you talking about like an art center or amphitheater, or just?
Well, I know that there's plans for the Luther Burbank docks, and I think that a really wonderful goal for that would be to have a performance space there. Something that could include music performances, dance performances, theater performances, and engaging outside arts groups to come in and use those spaces.
Okay, I'm hearing what you're saying. I think then, so this is a good example. I see we have another hand up. So before we go there, what I'm going to be looking for then is consensus. We don't have to write the objectives on the fly tonight, but if there's support to add a some sort of an objective around performance venues, then the staff will draft it. And I think it could, Sarah, I'm thinking out loud, is this addressed in the arts and culture plan somewhere? Do you remember?
Actually, I can answer that. That's
Oh,
why I
go
put my
ahead.
hand up.
Oh, great.
The 6.3 bullet point that we have, that is, in my opinion, the way I understand it, is covering the, arts in general, and like the facilities and location, like what we intend, what our intention is. And then like that gets transformed into like specifics like performing art, leveraging any public spaces like Luther Burbank Park, and whatnot.
And I'm wondering too, oh, go ahead, Sarah. Sorry, I'm jumped in here.
This is Ryan. Sarah's texted me and let me know she's having some technical difficulties. So hopefully everything goes as planned, as she's the host and isn't able to transfer those duties to me with her screen frozen, but just giving you a heads up.
Thanks. So I think you are correct in that 6.3 does broadly address that. I am observing though, as I'm scanning these again, that we don't, and maybe this was by design, we don't specifically call out performing arts, although we don't call out a lot of types of art.
Correct, yeah. I think it's by design because, yes, there's a lot of forms of art.
Elizabeth?
Thank you. The way that it reads to me, if we're looking at 6.3, sounds more specifically about visual arts in the parks and spaces like that. So I just think it would be beneficial to add a piece in there that talks about performance space.
So from a staff perspective, one of my jobs is just to say, yes or no, this would work. So something like this, I have no concerns about the addition. I would if we specifically named a space. Including. So looking at 6.3, Emily, I see your hand up too.
Yeah, Jesse, I was just going to say that I'm trying to put my finger on it, but I know the comprehensive plan, the arts comprehensive plan, has a lot of discussion about performing arts centers, facilities, whether they be city facilities or partner or potential partner facilities.
Thank you for the assist on that. I cannot switch to that plan right now from this screen. So this, I guess it will be the pleasure of the Arts Council members. By reference, your arts and culture plan is adopted as part of this plan too. So everything that's in this plan is here, but I still want to honor the wishes of the majority of the Arts Council. If you're interested in amending one of these objectives to specifically use the words performing arts. And I see Suzanne, I'll maybe turn it back to you, and then I see Rosemary too.
I did pull out the appendix, the Comprehensive Arts Culture Plan. And I mean, it is pretty heavy on the, I mean, it makes the statement that we lack adequate art space and goes into the discussion of performing arts. So I think that is a really notable thing. And I can reread the comprehensive plan appendix, but my recollection is that that seemed to be a real priority to the people that put this document together. So I think that is worth honoring and updating this a little bit. But I think we can bookmark that and maybe come up with a couple of paragraphs that we feel like addresses that, either individually and then submit it to Sarah. Maybe Sarah can reconcile that. I don't want to hold you guys up, but at the same time, I think it's worth getting in there.
And I see Rosemary also had a comment.
Yeah.
Yes, I was just going to suggest that 6.3 could just have an extra word or two added. It doesn't need to be major. Just integrating arts of all types, including performing arts, or something like that. And I also wanted to say, well, we do have the amphitheatre where Seattle Shakespeare performs, which is a good space, which shouldn't be ignored and should be used more, but maybe it needs updating a little bit.
Okay, so here's what I can commit to doing. Again, hey, thanks Emily for pulling that plan up, and Suzanne, you as well. I will get with Sarah. We'll go back and cross-reference that plan and make sure that we've adequately reflected here. Again, the idea is complement, in some cases mirror what's already in the art and culture plan, but the space request. And then we'll also take a read through and see if performing arts fits here. We could add those words. So what I'll ask Sarah to do then, I'm not sure that my schedule allows me to come back to your October meeting, but we can show the strike and delete the changes and bring them back for a thumbs up. The whole plan, chapter 4 goes back to the Parks and Rec Commission in November. So we want to get our work done between now and their November meeting. So these are good comments. I'm taking notes. Anything else as you're looking at the chapter, the goal 6 and the corresponding objectives that you'd like to add? Salim.
Well, the only thing I would add is that in the comprehensive plan component, we call it the community arts facility, I believe. So if we can be consistent with the language that exists over there, I think it would be beneficial to this document so that there's a good tie-in to the kind of extensive footnoting and mentions of it over in the comprehensive plan.
Great, I've got it. Thank you. And Elizabeth.
I believe it was addressed, but I think another really important objective that we should have is just to be sure that we're engaging with all aspects of the community, including the schools as such a huge resource in whatever format of the arts that we're interested in promoting, and other arts organizations, like youth theater or things like that. And I think the wording is in there somewhere if you keep scrolling, but I'm not sure.
Yes, so I keep doing that. Goal 7 is around community engagement and partnerships. And it was written fairly generically, although we did specifically call out the Mercer Island School District. They're one of our obviously key partners. But I can just make a note to make sure make sure that goal 7 doesn't exclude arts partnerships, but I think we might be okay. I guess it's 7.3 that we, public, private, nonprofit art organizations. And the Parks Commission had me revise this to be super generic because I was trying to name too many types. All right, Suzanne.
Okay, this may be addressed there, but I can't track it right now, but are we addressing kind of the nexus of art and commerce in our community? Because I think that's kind of risen up in the last couple years. So I want to make sure we have that in there. And I'm thinking of one example. Ryan, I appreciate this. Pickleball courts. I think we have an opportunity to bring a lot of people to our community that will stay and dine and shop, and just out of that as an opportunity. That doesn't have to do with art, I guess, but we'd certainly want to do the same thing with arts in our community. Bring people here, have them enjoy all the services that our commerce has to offer to them.
So that is a great, oh, it's right here. We had a fascinating conversation with the Parks and Rec Commission. 8.6 was intended to be a broad economic development objective, and the Parks and Rec Commission didn't like it. So it's not revised yet, but they said they couldn't make sense of the way we wrote it and the nexus between all these services and economic development. So I think, and Salim's here so he can confirm, economic development is one of the top, the city council has goals. It's one of the 4 goals of the city council. So I felt, as we were drafting this, it needed to be here. I'm going to revise 8.6. I just didn't have time between the Parks Commission and this meeting. So that's a good point. I will add arts, the arts nexus to that recommendation.
Thank you.
All right. Other thoughts or comments on? And thank you for that, because now I'm going to go back and say, well, the Arts Council likes the economic development goal. Rosemary.
Well, I just wanted to add that I think that that's a great point, that if you're having more cultural events or parks and recreation events, you can combine them with provision of food in some way, maybe something limited in the parks, or just have people use Mercer Island businesses. So the two things go hand in hand, don't they? And I think that's something we should be thinking about.
Excellent. All right.
I was just going to quickly mention, we had the note, well, we had it in the work plan, the mention of a certified creative district, which was an economic arts district, which was something that we were working on at one point and we backburnered.
Yeah.
That's kind of smattered within the comprehensive plan, but it speaks to the arts and the economic engine that arts can be. And that was really within a thoughtful framework of trying to make that happen. I'll just throw that out there from a historical perspective. We shouldn't forget that that's still a thing.
That's right. That got nixed in pandemic mayhem. So thank you for that reminder. I had actually, until you said that, Salim, completely forgotten about it.
Yeah, it's a great way to take our energy and put it into something that doesn't have to recreate the wheel. It just tries to leverage what we have in the community, understand arts in all of their aspects, like the culinary arts, the chocolate making and the restaurants, as well as the arts that are within town center and around, and try and turn that into a district.
So I will take a look at that and make a suggestion as to whether it belongs here or whether we just ask, Sarah, in coordination with all of you, to, and Salim with your leadership as well, to evaluate putting it back on a future work plan. Anything else? And you're free to shoot a message to Sarah. What I will want to do though is capture in the next couple of weeks any additional thoughts or changes you have so that we can bring them back and get a thumbs up from the majority of the Arts Council before we roll your recommendation forward to the Parks and Rec Commission. So with that, I'll move on to Chapter 7, which may be very brief. Everyone can still see my screen. Yep. So Chapter 7, we share it because it's a background chapter in the plan. What you read here should tie back to the goals and objectives. We have a copy editor working with us. She's taken one pass through, but still sometimes we've got grammar and spelling. So I wanted to make sure you had a chance to review this draft. And if you have anything that stands out that's not just not lining up for you, and remember these background chapters, we use them for grant applications. We use them to tell our future staff, our future volunteers, our future community about where we are today. So this chapter in particular reflects a lot on the COVID happenings. Sarah's done an excellent job helping us, build out this chapter and make sure it also picks up cultural arts. Ignore the funky formatting. We're going to get all that cleaned up when it gets, dropped into the future document. So I'll just ask, did you have any reactions, anything missing in this background chapter that you'd like us to work on or expand or modify? If you don't have it for me tonight, again, in the next couple of weeks, just make sure you send Sarah your thoughts. All right, I'm going to stop torturing you with my text. Well, Suzanne, I think I have what I need for tonight, and I will just remind you, in October, we'll be back with some changes for you to look at, and Sarah will be looking for, I'm not sure if you can either do a thumbs up informally or a formal motion. And then in November, we'll be handing off the whole plan to you just to do a once over. Now, I do have one more ask. You can either decide tonight or you can get back to me later. I don't know, we have 3 boards and commissions, yourself, Open Space Conservancy Trust, and the Parks and Rec Commission. And we're getting to that magic moment where the plan's coming together. So as the Parks Commission is working on final review of the plan, which will go out till probably December and possibly one meeting in January, we would like to invite the Arts Council to send a representative to those Parks Commission meetings. I put in my staff report that we think it'll be about 4 or 5 meetings, maybe less. So it's just a way for you to have a seat at the table, right? And for somebody to represent the arts as we're making final recommendations. So again, you can make that call tonight, or you can talk it over and just let me know who that person is by the time we get to your October meeting, because we will plug you in then October, November, end of October, November, December.
Okay, so if somebody wants to volunteer right now, we can talk about it or think about it, or email Sarah if you have interest in taking on that role, I guess, over the next few months. Thank you, Jesse. That was great.
I see really quick, Suzanne, and I'm back. I'm so sorry it's like every time I get on these meetings, my internet stops working. So I heard a lot of the conversation and it was great. Really excited to hear you all engaged in this. Elizabeth, I see your hand. Is that a new hand or an old hand?
It's a new hand. And I was just saying that I'd be interested in being that person.
Great.
So just want to know what the meeting commitment would be.
How about, let me rattle this off. For sure, in November and December, it's the first Thursday of both of those months. And
Okay.
then there may be some additional special meetings scheduled.
I have choir rehearsal Thursday nights.
I knew it was too easy.
Yeah.
It's like, wow, we've got
If
it.
you want to have it on a different day.
Oh, gosh. Well, I guess that leaves it out there, but thank you for considering that. That would have been really great. So Sarah, I don't know if we're going to get the answer to that question right now or get the volunteer for that position right now.
Yep, we can follow up. And also knowing that Amy and Eric aren't here tonight, I have a feeling this is something that one of them would probably be really interested in as well. So we'll get back to you with that ASAP, Jesse.
Yeah, maybe you could send us an email just kind of outlining the meetings, kind of the scope and the links to the documents and all that, and ask, maybe we can get someone to step up on that. That would be really great.
Great.
Also, Jesse, and I know it's read ahead a little bit in the notes for tonight. Right now, we're not planning on meeting in October. We haven't done that yet, but you've been
right.
mentioning a couple times our October meeting, so I just wanted to flag that.
That is a very good point. I forgot that you guys weren't meeting monthly. I'll talk to Sarah and Ryan about how we roll up your recommendation without violating the Open Public Meetings Act. I'll think about that. I don't want to call a meeting just so you can review 6 words on a paper. So let me think about that. Work smarter, not harder. That's my motto.
All right, thank you. Is
Well,
there
thank you
anything
for
else
having
on
me.
this topic? Thanks, Jesse, that was great. Anything else we need to cover on that? Okay, well, then our third item of regular business is to discuss opportunities for public art and placemaking components for Luther Burbank Docks reconfiguration and repair project. And we have Paul West, the CIP project manager, and Anna Spooner, landscape architect, for the project team to lead this discussion. Hi, Paul, and where's Anna?
Hello, everybody.
Hi, Anna.
Hi.
Glad to be here. I've been here at your meeting maybe a year or more ago when we talked about handsome bollards the last time, but now that's probably getting to be 2 years ago, 3 years ago. Who knows? I don't. Time has warped, I guess, with the pandemic. So tonight we're going to take a deeper dive into the handsome bollards, the future of the handsome bollards, and then look at the general project. But first, I want to just give an overview of where we're at with the Luther Burbank Docks and Waterfront project. We're in year 2 of a 5-year program. We started in 2020, and construction will probably be in 2024. And why does it take so long? Well, this is a really big project, and it's in the lake. And so permitting is very, very difficult. And hopefully it will go relatively smoothly, but we can't predict. And so we need to have that, to take all that time in order to be sure that we have our ducks in a row. Next slide. So tonight we're going to talk, I'm going to show you the schematic site plan. Anna will go deeper into that as well. And then we'll talk about the handsome bollards and then look at the public art opportunities. Next slide. So the city held an open house on the docks and waterfront about a year ago in September of 2020, and took a lot of public input on what people wanted to see there. And from that public input and from the Luther Burbank Master Plan, the Parks and Recreation Commission developed this concept design with the help of our consultants. And it's a very comprehensive renovation of not just the docks, but the adjacent waterfront as well. And it does a number of things other than provide boating facilities. It also provides gathering places and programming areas for boating classes and camps. And it also provides our first ADA access to the shoreline in Luther Burbank Park. And so that's a real milestone for us. So next slide, please. I just want to walk through some of the components of that plan, and then Anna will show you the more current version of it. So starting at the north end of this area of Luther Burbank Park, what we're planning to do is widen this part of the beach next to the plaza, where kayaks are already launching and coming ashore. But right now at the high water level in summer, it's a very narrow beach. And so widening the beach will allow kayaks to more comfortably launch. And then also there will be a wheelchair accessible ramp down to this beach from the plaza level. Next slide, please. Moving south, now we're in front of the boiler building, and of course there's the handsome bollards along the bulkhead. Anna will go into the details of the ins and outs of these bulkhead steps, but the basic issue here is that if we do a major renovation on the plaza, that's going to trigger code compliance, and code compliance on this kind of drop off is typically a 42-inch railing with openings no greater than 3 or 4 inches. I can't remember what it is exactly, but that would go right next to the handsome bollards, and that just wouldn't look very good. So we got to figure something else out, maybe, or maybe accept that there's going to be a railing there. That's part of the discussion tonight. Anyway, next slide, please. Moving south along the building, this passageway between the north end of the plaza and the south end of the plaza is a constriction area. It's also dark. We do have some lighting there right now, but we want to redo the lighting just to allow people to pass through here. This is a major walking path for people along the shoreline, and people use this in the early morning and after dark in the winter to walk their dogs and get exercise. So having this be a safe passage is really important. It's also a great place to sit and hang out. And so putting in a couple benches along the building was something that the Parks and Rec Commission recommended. Next slide, please. The main part of the plaza is a large open area with this funny kiosk. This, we think, is somebody's idea of how to recycle the parts of the old steam plant. But it's kind of in a funny location. It doesn't really function very well. We'd like to replace it with a new kiosk that doesn't clutter this really lovely open space. We're also talking about having pervious paving in this plaza to treat rainwater before it goes into the lake. There'd be a series of what are called suspended pavement cells underneath that pervious pavement that would absorb and biologically treat water before it goes into the lake. It would also provide a rooting zone for a new tree that would go into the plaza. Next slide. Over above the restroom, the concept is to have a new outdoor classroom on the top of the restrooms, which would just be a deck and railing, but it would be a place where sailing and boating classes could congregate and not clutter the plaza, which is pretty trafficky in the summer with walkers and boaters and so forth. So this is a great way to expand use of the plaza without having to pave more area. Next slide, please. Right next to that restroom would be a ramp, and a wheelchair ramp up to that classroom so that we would have ADA accessibility. And a kiosk, new kiosk would go somewhere in this location as well. Next slide, please. And finally, on the south end of the plaza, we have 3 50-year-old trees that are not doing very well. They would be removed and replaced with one new tree that would be a large signature tree for this site. It would have enough rooting volume with those suspended pavement cells to allow it to grow to great stature And then we would also have a link into our South Shoreline Trail, which is being renovated right now as a separate project. Also, the idea to declutter the plaza includes signage. Currently, we have standalone signage that would be more integrated into walls or other features that already exist on the site. That's the overview, and I'm going to turn it over to Anna to go into the 30% design.
Yeah, great. Thanks, Paul. So I'm Anna Spooner, and I'm a landscape architect with Anchor QEA. So I'm the one of the consultants supporting Paul and the city on this project. So recently we completed the 30% design. So we took all of the elements that Paul talked about and developed that design a little bit more, got to know the site a little bit better. And that's what you see here. So this is the site plan that is at a 30% design level. So you can see, it's more of a technical drawing because we're starting to really kind of get into the nitty gritty details, and not everything's figured out yet, though. We're still only at 30%. But you can see some of the elements that Paul spoke to. So you see the outdoor classroom is here with this new ramp coming down and then coming on grade along the hillside down to the plaza. You can see the plazas has new paving, pervious paving, as Paul talked about, and is a lot more open now. It's this, I just realized that I didn't update this plan. So this kiosk is shown here, but Paul mentioned that the kiosk will be over here. And we can talk about some opportunities for art associated with that kiosk potentially. And then you can also see the handsome bollards are here along the shoreline. And adjacent to that is this new stairway feature, which is a over water graded feature that could negate the need for the guardrail that Paul talked about. So instead of having a wall with a large fall from the edge adjacent to those bollards, there would be steps down, and each step would be about 1.5 feet wide. And they would get down just closer to the water, so you could then sit at the bottom of the steps and dangle your feet into the water. So it's not intended for folks to swim off of them. It's just intended to people kind of interact with that water a little bit more. And when the water is high, that lowest step would actually be slightly submerged, so you could kind of get your feet really wet, which would be a cool feature in the summer. And then as you move to the north, here's this pathway connection linking the plaza with an American for Disabilities Act ADA pathway to the beach. And then the beach is expanded. And so even at high water, there's going to be a bigger area for kayak launching. And then this pathway also then loops into the existing trail that heads to the north. So it really enhances kind of low gradient, gentle pathways that are ADA accessible and really enhances accessibility to the site. So the location of the handsome bollards is here, as I highlighted. And we've designed it so that, or we've kind of, where we are right now is that would create openings in the chain. And so that's what each of these arrows shows, that we would remove a section of chain, but the hand will always hold at least one chain. So there won't be a hand by itself. It'll always hold at least one chain. To see a photo of that, you can see where these arrows are is where we would create openings. So there would be 5 total each end and then 3 in the middle. So you can see the photos in both sides. And then what you don't see is that these then would lead to the step feature along the shoreline. So you have to kind of envision those steps there. So maybe before I go on to the opportunities for integrated art, Paul mentioned, the stairs are the current preferred alternative for kind of dealing with this fall hazard. They also would be new overwater cover in the lake, which can be sometimes tricky to permit. And if for some reason we wouldn't do the stairs, if that was an issue, then we would still have that same issue of, do we need some sort of rail here to improve safety at the site and make sure that no one falls into the lake. But currently we're proposing the stairs. So this is the 30% design again. And then we've highlighted here this opportunity for integrated public art. So thinking about not like a standalone feature, but something that really speaks to the site and speaks to the new design, and looking for opportunities to coordinate the design with art. So it's really an integrated piece and makes sense for the place where it is. And so that large plaza opportunity or plaza area is an amazing opportunity. And it was interesting to hear this last discussion about performance art. We've really focused mostly on visual art. And so you'll see some ideas for visual art, but I'm excited about the conversation potentially about performance art as well. So here's this plaza space in a photo. So it's, as Paul showed earlier, it's a large space. Here's that kiosk for reference. So that would be removed. And so the space would be kind of decluttered, and signage would potentially be moved to the sides. And so then I thought we could just I just been mentioning some themes and just thinking of what this integrated art could be. So these are just kind of idea generators, because I think there's a huge amount of opportunity out there for themes, and to just think about, where we are. So one theme could speak to local and regional geography and speak to the water bodies in our area in Western Washington. The story of Lake Washington is a very interesting story. And so speaking to Mercer Island and its surrounding water bodies. I think the theme of human-powered boat construction, both the history of that and also that as an art form, is a huge potential at this site. So one to highlight. And then also the local Mercer Island history. I saw that one of the goals in the art and culture plan is about the heritage of Mercer Island. And so the waterfront of Mercer Island has a really great history to tell. And so there's a great potential for that theme here as well. So this photo of the old Calkins Hotel and that story, and also just the use of the waterfront over time. And then the local natural history. We all love the story of the locks and the insane engineering that went on right here in our backyard. And then also the Submerged Forests is also another just great visual. You can just kind of imagine these submerged forests in right here. There's right along Mercer Island are mapped submerged forests, and just a cool thing to think about, something to interpret. And then thinking, so that was kind of ideas of themes and so many great opportunities out there. And then thinking about kind of how those could be expressed. So again, this is focused on visual, but kind of thinking about how you kind of integrate these into the design and use this opportunity over the next year or so while we are doing InDesign to incorporate integrated art. So sculptural elements could be used to define entrances or to define key features like this, the kind of transition from land to water. So here's a couple images of what that is. These are both at the city of Bellevue's Maiden Bower Bay Park, marking your entrance into the park, and then also marking on the pile caps, so associated with the overwater access features. Paving treatments, we will be putting some concrete paving as well as pervious paving, and the concrete paving especially would be a great canvas to use metals or imprinting to tell a story, if it's a map or if it's words, a great opportunity there. And then also the boiler building is kind of this vertical face and potential canvas for artistic murals. Again, this is from Bellevue at Maiden Bower Bay Park, but working with local artists to explore murals and tile art or other types of canvas on a vertical surface. And then finally, we mentioned the kiosk that we'll be removing the one that's there and looking for opportunities for a new kiosk. And that is, there's great potential for that to incorporate art, both in its structure and in its kind of massing, as well as benches. There's a couple new benches proposed as we showed along the building, and there's also a new picnic table. So thinking if we wanted to do something custom that speaks to where we are, there's great opportunity for that. So just ending with kind of next steps and where we are and where we're going. So we just recently finished 30% design, and we'll meet with you guys tonight, and then we'll also meeting with the doc subcommittee this week to talk about kind of what the design is looking like and changes. The 30% package will then go move on to city council at the end of the year or kind of between now and the end of the year to get kind of authorization to move forward and project approval. And then we'll move into 60% design, at which point we will start taking all the information we've received and making tweaks and changes and developing the design. And we were thinking at that point, once we're kind of back into the nitty gritty of the design and making those changes, that we could check in with the Arts Council again. So I think that's the end of the presentation. So I'm just gonna open it up for discussion.
Thank you, Anna. So Art Council members, thoughts? Well, I see a hand up. Go ahead, Elizabeth.
I came prepared to share. Your visual was really helpful and a beautiful presentation. And I think it's interesting that you put a couple of pictures from Bellevue in fact. And so 2 thoughts on this that I'd love to share and get maybe feedback from some other Arts Council members on. But is there a potential for a performing arts space as we're looking at doing this? You know, we have the benefit of Mercer Island being right in the center of, you know, Seattle on one side, Bellevue on the other. And what can we do to make it a place that people want to come to the island? And then it ties into fiscal and, you know, everything else. So is it possible to look at having some sort of outdoor performance space? The other part of it, I just recently went to Mohi, which is great, and saw the Da Vinci exhibit. But there was really fun stuff up on the 3rd floor that was interactive in the sense that the kids were really enjoying it. You know, they have the scope that comes down and the big ship's wheel. And if we were to integrate the historic elements of ships into the park, could be something that would be really uniquely Mercer Island that we don't have around here. So, you know, an old ship's anchor could be the base for the new kiosk, or, you know, something along those lines where we take the elements of what makes us and the water and the island and the boats and incorporate that into the park. So those are my thoughts.
Those are both great thoughts. And I think the old ship and the historic elements, I think kind of diving into the history and getting objects that can then tell a story is a great potential. In terms of a performing art space, what like physical elements would that include? Is it just kind of the opening of the space, or are there other design elements that would enhance the place as a performing art area?
Back to me.
Or yeah.
I mean, the one thing that's going to be important is power, depending on what type of performance that you want to do. I mean, if you're doing just theater and the actors can speak loudly, that's one thing. But if you want to bring in music that requires amplification, then we would need those added aspects of, you know, a place to attach sound equipment, depending on whether it was a permanent installation or something that musicians brought themselves. And lighting obviously is going to be really important. And, you know, looking at the space, then where do people sit to observe the art, and how does that all work and flow? I think one of the beautiful things about the Bellevue Center park, while they don't have obviously the water that we have, which would serve as its own beautiful background, you know, they've created their own water space, and they have the kind of tiered down seating. So something that invites people to come in and can be a house to any type of art that is displayed there. Is that helpful?
That is helpful. I mean, I look to Paul for the question of kind of the management or operations associated with that, but it's helpful to hear the physical pieces and what it means from a design piece of design criteria.
I'll just chime in and just say
go ahead,
that
Paul, and then we'll go to Rosemary.
I just want to say that love the idea. The Luther Burbank Park Master Plan is fairly specific on the programmed use of that space being primarily for boating and waterfront recreation. But it doesn't mean that, you know, a special event now and then couldn't happen there. There is power there, and that's sort of to have that available. Yeah, I don't see why, on a special event basis, things couldn't happen there. It's just the park is intended to be a passive use park primarily, and so there's a balance between active use spaces and the intended overall passive use of the park.
Rosemary.
I was just going to say, yes, I love the idea of an ad hoc performance there. I'm just concerned that it's not big enough for anything frequent or permanent. There's no space for seating without completely redesigning it and making it something different from what it's currently seemed to be designed for. So yeah. The other thing, but I mean, I love the idea of an ad hoc one. I'm just not sure that's the place to have as the performing arts space. And it seems to me the amphitheater area, one wouldn't want to spoil it, but there you've got the natural, you've got the space, you've got this beautiful amphitheater. So maybe that could be modernized without spoiling it in some way to make it, or just used as it is. I don't know, but that seems to me the area for more performing arts. But just to return to those visuals, I mean, I agree that I think they were great, all those different suggestions. And I love the tiles, just as one example, if you could do that without spoiling the building in any way, because that's not taking up any space, but it's really adding a decorative feature if it's done nicely, but it's not, and I thought that idea of an anchor is great. At the same time, you don't want to have something that's going to clutter the space too much. So it's kind of, I suppose it's going to be getting a balance.
Mm-hmm.
Anna Mayhem? And then we'll go to Celine.
I have, I'll say 3 points of feedback or questions. So first one is for the open area for classes that is going to be built. Like, should we also think about a possibility of enclosing the space and heating, especially in winters? Otherwise, we'll have to stop the classes in winters if it's completely open. So maybe something to think about. Another thing is the landscaping improvements. I know, yes, it's a very limited area, so I don't know if there is scope for improving the landscape just for folks to sit and enjoy the water. They don't have to necessarily sit on the stairs, but a little behind. And finally, I'm a bit concerned on the benches. I don't know if it will restrict the flow of walking. It might reduce the space and maybe increase the risk of falling.
Those are really helpful comments. In terms of kind of the landscape improvements, so we are going to be doing a lot of planting along the new pathways, both at the north end and south end. And at the north end, where the kayak launch, kind of that beach is going to be expanded, there'll be quite a bit of new vegetation there, kind of riparian vegetation, and that pathway coming down currently doesn't accommodate a bench or doesn't have a bench, but it might be something to think about, is kind of having a place to quietly sit. Right now it ends at a kind of a concrete stair that then you step down into the beach, and so you could definitely sit on the stair. But that's a good comment, is to think about how folks can sit and enjoy that new landscaped or restored landscaped area. And then the benches along the building, I think that's a good comment. Well, I know that's a good comment as well. Thinking about, taking up some of that space. I think that space I would have to measure it, but it's probably about 10 feet wide or so. And the benches would probably be about 1.5 feet. So it does narrow it down, of course. But I think the intent is to try to keep that as open as possible. So I think, yeah, we should take a look and make sure that we don't feel like it's getting cluttered, because I think a huge intent of this design is to really unclutter the plaza. And so kind of carrying that thread through. It's so good comments.
So I'll echo that comment from Anameha. It's not just a bench. It's not just 18 inches. It's what sits on a bench and how much that occupies. So if it's a dog on a leash or a parent with a stroller, those things get, the footprint really does grow as soon as it gets activated. I wanted to ask about the overwater feature because I have a 6-year-old.
Me too.
If the stairs go down to the water, what happens? Can the child get underneath these stairs? You're saying they're overwater stairs. What is going to prevent some child from getting underneath this feature?
I so enjoyed that comment because myself and one of my colleagues, we both have kids, and that was our comment as well when we were thinking about it. So the stairs are designed or they're in a location that always has water. There's always water there, so it's never in the dry. The stairs are graded, and the distance between the bottom stair and the beach grade is probably about 5 feet or so. So conceivably, if someone were to fall in the water, they could go under the stair. And so we did think about having something go down, like almost have a reverse guardrail so that people couldn't get back behind the stair. I think in some ways that makes it, it's not good from an environmental standpoint to have those barriers. And it's also just kind of more structure and more things to mess with. So I think that's a really good consideration, that safety consideration. It's about, I think in total, it's probably 4.5 feet of space that we kind of create under the stair, 4.5 feet deep and about 5 feet high. It is always in water. So I think it is a really good safety consideration that we've talked about and will continue to talk about. And so it's good to bring
Okay.
up.
I mean, it sounds pretty scary to me, as maybe a picture would help me understand it a little more, but as I think I understood what you said, a child could go under the stairs and then come up above the water inside effectively a caged off area that is underneath the stairs, but air has access to air, right?
Yeah, they probably could. I mean, it depends on the kid. I mean, a 6-year-old, for example, I'm thinking about my daughter, she's tiny. She'd be able to stand up, likely. It wouldn't be deep enough not to stand up, even at high water. I have to check those elevations, and that there would be grading, so you would see the kid.
Yeah, and you just have to understand there's a lot of wave action. So a kid underneath these stairs up against a concrete bulkhead is going to be battered by the waves against the wall. So it won't be a pleasant place to be. It will be a pretty traumatic place to be, positioned, as long as everybody's aware of that. My next question is, I don't have to wrestle that to the ground. That's just my concern.
No, thank you for bringing it up.
My next question is the Hanson bollards. The reason we talked about them last time, and Paul knows this, one of them was damaged, and it was an extensive effort to get it fixed. I'm not sure we could get it fixed again because the artist that fixed it may not be fixing these things in the future, or may not be fixing them anymore at all. If those are step features and now we break the chain in 3 places or 4 places, I could easily see again my 6-year-old swinging on the remainder of the chain because it's now no longer a scary cliff to the water. It's kind of an engaging water approach. Have we thought about future damage to the Hanson bollards? Might they be subject to more damage, and might we be unable to fix them at all?
The repairs that we did to the Hanson bollards were really substantial. We welded new plates to them and bolted them into the concrete with much more substantial plates than were originally attached to them. They're not going anywhere. the water damage that caused their failure has been fixed too, because now there are weep holes that allow water to drain away from underneath the masonry, so water won't be collecting. I mean, everything has a lifespan, but those Hanson bollards lasted 45 years before this first renovation. I think we have at least 50 more years on them with this new renovation.
Yeah, my only point is that I think that they will see a different level of use when they're have stairs on one side, right? Versus
Yeah, and
falling
that's
into the lake. You know, as a parent, I would hold my son back and say, let's not fall in the water. But if there's stairs that go down to the water, I guarantee you he's going to swing on one of those chains. It will just be a different load on the, I'm thinking more of the artwork that's on the top. How fragile or supportable is the wrist kind of aspect of that? Because that's where I see the.
Yeah, I mean, it's lasted 45 years. And I know kids swing on the chains now.
Okay,
So
great. All right.
I mean, I'm not saying that, you know, they have an infinite life, but they've stood the test of time so far.
Okay. That's the extent of my, thank you.
Yeah, sure.
Oh, you're on mute, Suzanne.
Okay, Rosemary. Oh, you're on mute.
Yeah, just a quick point with regard to the steps. Perhaps you could have some kind of grating down the side that would stop any child or anything apart from water and maybe going underneath the steps.
Yeah, thank you for that. We've talked about that, and I think we'll keep talking about that. We'd have to design it in a way that fish could go back and forth. But we have talked about that. So I think it's a good comment, and we'll keep talking about it. And I appreciate all those safety comments.
All right. Anameha?
Actually, just on that same topic, how deep would the water be? Because right now, when I go there, it seems like pretty deep.
It depends on the time of year. I believe in the summer is higher, so it's about 2 feet higher in the summer. And I believe there's about 4 or 5 feet of water at the bulkhead in the summer. And then in the winter, it's 2 feet deep, shallower. So it's 2 or 3 feet.
Got it.
I have to
Right now, for me, it's about waist deep.
Okay. So does it make sense to add like those metrics on the side, so like everybody's aware, like, and they can gauge the risk?
I think, well, one thing we've talked about is increasing the signage that it's a no swimming area. Because really the intent is not, people don't swim along this shoreline. And I think the fact that there are stairs, that we need to increase that signage to really communicate that this is really just a passive area where you just dangle your feet.
Yeah.
So yeah, and I think including metrics would reinforce that as well.
Okay. I just have a couple things to weigh in on. I think this might be just me, but I think the magic of first of all, let me say yay to the steps. I remember before that was aspirational, and I'm so proud that as a community we're willing to step up and do something aspirational, because I think those steps going down to the lake will be really, really, really magical and make that plaza seem so much more substantial than it is now, than having that drop off. So I'm just so excited to see that. I think that the steps can be designed as a cage that lets fish through, but not people inside. I think that's just an engineering feat, and I don't think it's that complicated to do. I can't remember exactly the layout there, but I mean, hopefully we're making them, if I remember your diagram, very, very wide, all the way as wide as you can. That again, that's that magnificence of tying into the lake and tying into the plaza. So I would like to encourage that. I am going to float an idea, which some people won't like, probably the city code, but I am a no railing person. I mean, I know I have back deck that's only so many feet or so many inches off the ground. So there I'm allowed to have that deck without a railing. And that's what makes the tie-in to my backyard amazing, because there's not a barrier there. So I would say, take a look at that. I don't know if that's feasible. And then the handsome bollards, I mean, another use would be to use them, turning them at a 90-degree angle and having them go down the steps so that you could, as a person walking that plaza, you can see, okay, this bollard is this height and the next one is down 8 inches and the next one is down another 8 inches. So if I want to walk down and dangle my toes in the water, I can follow that chain or rope down the bollard, the handsome bollards, to the lake and feel secure that I'm not going to be buffeted by the wind. Or maybe if I'm a 3-year-old, I can hold on to that rope taking me down to the lake, and I can dangle my toes in, and then I can come back up the rope into the plaza. So right now we have it held by a chain. I'm just saying maybe a rope is more gentle. You could also use, whether it's used in its present configuration parallel to the shore, or if you turned it perpendicular to the shore. You could also, if you really want more of a barrier, you could use sort of the fishnet look. So, so people can't pass through it. So it would actually, a 3-year-old or a 2-year-old that takes off running as fast as they can towards the steps, they're going to run into a net unless they hit that opening, and which is where the parent is. So, so that's just a couple of thoughts about that. Again, I would do no railings there, because I think that's what makes it the greatest look, the best kind of magicalness of it. Then my second question is, and maybe this is me, but what about the boiler room? I mean, it's like this big box that no one's talking about.
Mhm.
When we said you were going to remove the kiosk in the middle of the plaza, I'm looking behind that and I'm seeing this big white door, which is not very attractive. Yet we have this big resource. What's the plan with the boiler room?
Boiler room is also a project on the capital projects list. We did a feasibility study in 2016 and 17 on the building, and we have a 2-phase plan. The first phase stabilizes the building and does basic renovations to the restrooms, and the second phase, and in the second phase, we renovate the interior of the building as for boating programs. So right now it's only occupancy permitted is for storage, but with the renovation, it would become an indoor classroom in a heated space, as Anhumeha suggested, and there would be an office there, and the boat storage would continue, and so that way boating programs could expand and become more of a 3-season activity rather than just summer. But right now, that's a aspirational goal. Right now, the only thing that's in the capital program is to just stabilize the building, which means put in seismic retrofits and a new roof so that the building doesn't deteriorate.
Well, that's really exciting that, that there's a long-term plan to enhance the boating accessibility there. I think that's going to be great. Okay, one more question. What did it? Oh, as far as your suggestions about themes for art, I think you're spot on. I like the nautical themes. I like the themes that, historical, natural history, birds. There's a lot of birding that happens in Luther Burbank Park. A lot of birders go down there. So I think that's something. And I'm kind of a person too that I think you can be magical and creative about it. It doesn't have to be a literal anchor. It could be somebody's artistic conception of that. But I think, in our history, the only way to access this island at some point in time was by boat. And I think that's worth kind of honoring. So, and it looks like Rosemary has another comment. What do you have?
Sorry, a couple of, I was just following up from your point about the railings, and the idea of having it go down to the steps or down the steps. And I was just wondering, what kind of length are you talking about? I guess it would be diagonal. Because I got the impression it wouldn't be very much, but I mean, sorry.
It would be just a railing, just like you would have, I mean, functionally, it would be like ADA accessible swimming pool. You'd have a stainless steel railing going down the steps into the water, right? Well, this would be functionally sort of the same kind of thing. So that's what I'm imagining. I'm looking at the function. And so
I mean, maybe I misunderstood. I thought you were suggesting that the bollards go down the steps.
Mm-hmm.
Was that what you were suggesting? Right. So I'm trying to figure out what kind of length you're talking about. I mean, at the moment, you've got a wide section with the bollards, which I think the current suggestion is great, but I'm just following up from your suggestion of how far that would be, what kind of distance you're talking about. I mean, maybe Paul could answer that.
And how far out did those steps go?
They go about 4.5 or 5 feet out. So it probably only space really, right now there's about 5 feet between each. And so you would essentially have 1-2 with the way it's currently designed. We're trying to not put too much overwater cover over the lake. So it'd probably, if you turned them, to keep that 5 feet between them, they'd get really tight if they were closer. It would probably just be 1-2, and you could do that kind of throughout because it's a very long section. So maybe you have 1-2, 1-2, 1-2, 1-2. That's how I see it translating. The idea translating.
Okay, thanks. And another question, just the building. I was just curious as to what kind of time frame that's likely to be. Those 2 stages. If I know they're in the future, but when are they likely?
Phase 1, the seismic retrofits and new roof and are scheduled for 2023, most likely. The new restrooms would be done in conjunction with the waterfront plaza renovation, which is 2024. And then phase 2, which is the classroom and office and full build out of the interior of the boiler building. There's no projected timeline. It's not in the capital plan. We don't have the capital funding for that. It's aspirational. It would probably require major, either a benefactor or a major public push to have it happen.
I don't see any more hands up. Any more comments for our staff? I really appreciate the presentation. It's exciting.
Thank you so much. Well, and like we said, we'll be back again next year with more refined design and suggestions based on your comments. I'm hearing a nautical theme is popular, and that certainly will be, something that we take in. It'd be great to hear just if there are any other themes that we should be considering. Any other opinions about functional art or integrated art? We've heard, things about having it be, the tile on the building. I heard. So anyway, it's been great to hear that, and we'll have, I think we'll come back with, 2 or 3 options that we glean from this conversation and present them at that 60% design phase. And then at that point, we'll also talk about, how do we accomplish that? How do we bring the artist in and go from there?
Okay. Elizabeth has one more comment for us. Question.
Yeah, just the very last thing that you were talking about with the more hands-on art. And I think that would be something that would be really great. I mean, I I have 2 kids here on the island, and a couple of you have mentioned that you have little ones. And like I said, when we went to Mohi, one of the things they loved was just being able to, look through the scope and turn the wheel a little bit, and to have things that are appeal to adults from a visual standpoint, but are actually touchable and usable by maybe different, smaller generations. I think it would be really key. One of the things, not that I'm suggesting this, but that is great, is up in Edmonds, they have that really amazing splash park that's so welcoming and hands-on, and something like that could appeal to kids in some way, families. And yeah.
I was recently on Orcas Island, and there's, I don't know the artist's name, but I saw 2 sculptures on the island, one up near the ferry and then one over kind of on the east side of the island. But the one on the east side was this giant, super lifelike crab made of corten steel, but it was like detailed. And then you could actually move all the pieces of it. And it was just really burly. So my kids were just like climbing all over it. Well, I loved it just because it looked so cool. And then my kids were climbing all over it, and they were like not only having fun and interacting with it, but it was also so anatomically correct that I was like, oh, you're, learning about crab as well. I mean, you're learning about all the little pieces and the head and the thing. It was totally cool.
And we're worried about kids going into the water, swimming, falling off. I think distract them on land and they won't go near the water.
I mean, that's the secret to raising children, right?
We are great out of action.
Okay, thank you. I think we're going to let these guys go. Thanks for coming tonight. And we're going to go to our next item of regular business. And that's going to be Sarah, our Economic Development Coordinator, and Ryan Daly, Operations Transition Team Manager, to provide updates on the Arts Immediate Action Plan and Arts Reset Plan and talk about the schedule. So hopefully Sarah's back.
I am. So many issues. So I'm actually going to kick it to Ryan first, because he has some updates on the immediate action plan items for this year. So take it away, Ryan.
Awesome. Thank you, Sarah. And I'm still reeling from Councilmember's niece talking about his son and 6-year-olds and how crazy they are. I have one as well. And swinging from the railing there is definitely a possibility. So points well taken, and so we'll continue to work through those. But providing the updates, I'll make this very, very quick and brief, since I provided you way too many pages in your staff report on the update. Mostly Music in the Park, the first item on the 3 within the immediate action plan. It went so well. I have to give so much credit to the Arts Council on pushing that forward. I think we were all a little bit maybe concerned about the ability to deliver it. It was the first event that we were running since December of 2019 as a department. So being able to put that forward, and though it was cut short and we weren't able to deliver all 3, being able to deliver the 1 concert was just, it really showed, and I think it rejuvenated staff as well as the community on what the possibilities are as we move forward. And so I know Elizabeth and Rosemary had the opportunity to talk with me earlier this week, and are probably like, geez, this guy was way too excited for this project to go forward. But I do believe that it really sets the groundwork for where we can go as an arts council, but also as a recreation division that we're sort of reimagining. And so just to touch on what that first event was at Mostly Music in the Park, we had the Olsen Brothers band. They called me the other day, actually, or sent me an email basically begging to come back to Mercer Island because they enjoyed the show so much. They really, I don't think they've ever been to Mercer Island before. And so coming in through Bellevue and being sandwiched right in between 2 really major cities and getting that hometown feel, I think was something really cool and unique. And I think that's where we can really build as we go forward. The crowd was about 300 people. It went very well. The park looked awesome. So a lot of credit to our park maintenance team for getting things up and running. You'll recall that we really turned down the level of maintenance we were providing through COVID. And so for them to get back into it get their team rolling to get that park looking so good was just an outstanding function. So, the other thing, and just kind of wrapping up on Mostly Music in the Park, the number of young families, and for those of you who know me, I'm kind of out in the park a lot, getting to meet new people, and that's by far the best part of my job. I was meeting so many people I'd never met before, who had just moved to Mercer Island in different aspects, and so you can probably tell I feel really good about this, because that's how we're welcoming these people and these new families into our community, and so instantly they were feeling much more comfortable, moving in from an outside area during a time where you weren't able to engage with a lot of people for such a long time. So just all in all, excellent event. Unfortunately, we did have to cancel the remaining 2 shows. We had a person present who had COVID. We became aware of it as the week sort of went on. We were seeing those case counts and those hospitalizations ramp up. And so, we made the smart decision, I think, as a staff to make that cancellation. And so doesn't diminish what I think was an excellent product that was put forward, and something that was really valued by the community. So does any questions on Mostly Music? I can't wait to start working with all of you to plan the next one for next year, and even some spin-offs that we may be able to work with. So seeing no questions, next item is the Mercer Island Gallery and where we are there. We've been working with MyVol to do a holiday show. We've got some plans in place. I think one of the areas we're really looking to confirm right now, and we're working with our emergency management team, is if we can bring in more people into the building. As I mentioned, with the COVID counts increasing as well as hospitalization, how do we do that safely? And so we have made a decision from the community center standpoint not to offer facility rentals, specifically within the gym, really limiting those groups coming in. We're sort of redirecting our frontline staff resources toward doing some things out in the park and whatnot. So where I'm going with this is I'm going to be engaging MyVol on what our flexibility and our possibilities are. Is there outdoor engagement that might be possible for the holiday show, or is it something that needs to take place in the facility, and working through that? So a little bit more information to come, and we'll be working with that group to kind of finalize what we can do. I'll just add that we do have this group has heard me, I don't want to say whine, but maybe feel under-resourced for a period of time to be able to deliver on things. And so there was this maybe a hesitancy on the part of staff to really jump in. Well, we're in a spot right now where those resources are online, so we have the ability to start planning this stuff and flip the switch when it's go time. So maybe my optimism is Mr. Optimistic all the time over here. I'm feeling really good about where we are and where we can flip that switch, so to speak. Speaking of flipping the switch, let's talk about a prairie of possibilities and lighting in Mercerdale Park. See the segue there? That was really smooth. This is a really cool, if any of you haven't seen what it looks like or checked out the staff report or any pictures around it, I will send you that information. It's a lighted seasonal sort of installation. There'll be music involved. Sarah, I might look to you to help do this justice, but we've been working with the Moonlight Collective to deliver on this project. They're all lined up. The only hang up, and this isn't a hang up because the equipment is in transit right now, is us nailing down what the specific date will be. So we're still waiting to find out for sure that we're going to have that prepared and be able to install at Mercerdale Park. And everything's looking great right now. We have a contract signed by the artist, and so as soon as we confirm their insurance, which is on the way, and we know that the lighting products are here, we're ready to flip the switch and advertise those dates. more than likely that's going to be mid to late October will be the time frame for that installation. And just to touch on two items really quick along with that, the promotion is only going to be on Mercer Island. So we're really looking to focus this toward the Mercer Island community as opposed to regionally. And then the other part is, all guidance and whatnot and restrictions will be followed, but we will be requiring, despite, not knowing if it'll be 500 people there or 100 or what that might look like, all participants or patrons will be required to wear a mask. So I don't know. See, these are the fun things that we're working on. Thanks for throwing that one my way, Sarah. But any questions or updates on the immediate action plan?
I can't help but ask, what did we resolve as far as the monetary contribution for the project?
Yeah, so what we're doing is we're paying the artist $7,500 to do the installation and all coordination of the experience, so to speak. So that includes security and whatnot. The remaining funds that are held back are to address all of the electrical needs, as well as having a staff member on site throughout the event. I should never say that we may have an electrical challenge, but we'll have somebody on site to deal with it if there ever was.
Mm-hmm. And where did that money come from then?
Those are the For Culture grant funds.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else have any questions on that? Oh, Elizabeth.
Yeah, I was just wondering, when we do have a date, how are we going to get the word out?
It will be everywhere. All of our regular city communications and whatnot, we'll be spreading it. I mean, honestly, where a lot of our promotion comes from the Parks and Recreation Department is word of mouth through our commissioners and our boards. And so we'd really be looking to this group to help to push that as well. So Facebook, the weekly, the city manager reports, all of those things is where that information will flow out of.
Okay, and then it only goes for 2 days, is that right?
Sarah, can you confirm that? Friday, Saturday?
It's
Sunday?
3 nights. Yeah.
Or
So
three,
they'll
yeah.
install on a Thursday and then it'll be open to the public Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and de-install on Monday.
Okay. And is there anything else planned around it? Like it's only on at night, I assume. And is there anything else planned that like just come see lights and then go home, or is there going to be more to it than that?
We're not anticipating there being more to it than that at this point. I would say where the other additional tie-ins, and this is where Sarah's role as economic development coordinator really comes into play, is really partnering and informing those local businesses. I'll tell you, Pagliacci did amazing at the Mostly Music in the Park, as well as some of those other businesses in there. And so, us being able to highlight things that are happening in the downtown area is really, really important. And I think that's, we talked a little bit earlier about the economic drivers that these events can tie to. That's exactly where we need to be going, in my opinion. And I think there's a lot of support there from both the City Council as well as the Arts Council and the Parks and Recreation Commission.
I don't know if you know the answer to this question, but I guess I'd like to know the city's point of view. Would the artists consider corporate sponsorship? I mean, could they be sponsored by Pagliacci, or is it possible for us to generate more money for the artist? Or I'm not sure we want to. I'm just floating that question out there just to give that opportunity to tie that back into the local businesses.
I would say there is always opportunity. I think where we have some challenges right now is not having the structure in place to be as beneficial. And so that would be something I would like to see us clean up as we go forward.
Celine?
Yeah, I just wanted to add for Elizabeth's benefit, the Midnight Collective and the artists, they came and pitched this to the Arts Council, but They did talk about audio component to it, either with headsets, and it was going to be beamed to the headsets or over a PA system. And they were talking about setting it to music with different themes, potentially Friday, Saturday, and Sunday night, or revolving as the night progresses. You know, start off with something a little bit more mild that turns into a full-on rave at 10 o'clock. So I think it is a little bit more interactive than just looking at the lights. But I think that we're going to wait and see how they develop that programming.
Yeah, great point. I did not do it justice in the least. There are I don't want to call them rocks, but small speakers throughout the installation so that you are experiencing this as you're moving through. And from what I heard there, it's a DJ. I don't, Councilmember Neese mentioned a rave, and now my wheels are really turning here.
Well, I think what's critical is that the music and the theme of the music is programmed into the light display in a, like it is tied together. So if it was classical music and maybe a more of a wintry type pattern, you would expect a certain type of lighting element. And if it was more dance or electronic music, it would be a very different lighting experience. So I think it'll be pretty cool.
Thank you for that clarification. I was just gonna, I was thinking more along the lines of food vendors or, you know, things like that to go along with it. But of course, during COVID, that's a challenging thing. So thank you for the clarification.
Sarah, I will pass it off to you.
Okay, thanks, Ryan. I'm gonna keep my video off for now because every time I turn it on, you all freeze and then I have to restart my computer. So you just get to hear my omniscient voice. So the second item under this bullet point is the Arts Reset Plan. In your packet tonight, we included a draft of the 2022 City Arts Work Plan. I also wrote an extensive staff report. Ryan and I are trying to be very diligent about getting you more information ahead of these meetings. So I encourage you to go back and look at that staff report to just kind of remind yourselves or refamiliarize yourselves with the process of getting here. We established working groups back in April to continue on the Arts Reset planning process with us. And one of the working groups is the Policy and Planning Group. Anumeha and Suzanne are in that group, as well as Eric. And we've met several times over the summer, talking about priorities and goals for 2022, and then, you know, the next biennium of 23 and 24. So tonight in your packet, you have the draft of the City Arts Work Plan. I will also, after this meeting, send out a link. So if you're interested in providing feedback in a collaborative format, we also have that option available now. So what we're asking tonight, rather than trying to kind of present the work plan and get feedback in real time, is for you all to go away with the plan, send us feedback, make notes, ask questions. You can either do that in comments and track changes with the link, or you can send them directly to me via email. And we will compile all of the comments from the full board and come back to the next meeting and really dive into them and work through them with the goal of hopefully adopting the City Arts Work Plan, if not the next meeting, definitely before the end of the year, because we are coming up into the fourth quarter now. One thing to really keep in mind with this work plan, obviously things continue to evolve. And as you look at the City Arts Work Plan, you'll probably see a lot of process and policy and procedure related language again. Know that we are making space for all of the fun stuff. Ryan is the go-to fun guy. I'm the go-to process procedure person, but we all already knew that. So really, you know, trying to continue to get your input on the high level goals and vision. A lot of this really connects back to the Arts Council ordinance, your charter, the Arts and Culture Plan as well. Really, what is going to be the best City Arts Work Plan next year and then over the next biennium? that really sets the Arts Council up for success to be able to, provide direction and really advise the city on where arts and culture needs to be for this community. And then we staff will take that plan and really implement it. So I just say all that to give you sort of a framework as you're looking at this work plan. And then also know that we haven't done a ton of work for 23 and 24. We've had some sort of high-level conversations about that as a small group, but we really plan on beginning to tackle that after the first of the year, hopefully bringing back your annual retreat. I'd like to say hopefully we can have it in person, so fingers crossed, and really start digging into that biennium look at, where are we going for the future? What's the roadmap to get there? So take a look at the work plan. Please provide feedback. And I was going to say by October 13th, which is the October meeting, Ryan's going to step back in right now to ask the board to cancel that October meeting, but we may be adjusting that given that Jesse asked for more pros plan discussion. So I'll let Ryan lead that conversation with what you all want to do, but I'm looking forward to hearing your feedback on the 2022 work plan.
Yeah, so moving to that item on the October meeting and what the Arts Council would like to do there, I provided a fairly succinct staff report that kind of outlines what we're thinking, and I'll kind of provide that the Parks and Recreation Commission will be meeting the first 2 weeks of October, one on the budget sort of aspect as well as the staffing plan for 2022, and then the subsequent meeting being the capital projects prioritization and whatnot for the pros plan. So they'll be doing those two items. In talking with most of you offline, we kind of discussed where some of the priorities might be for time to be spent in October. So with that, we're looking at, I really would encourage the Arts Council to remain involved in that pros plan process, even outside of just the arts related elements. We'll have a virtual public meeting coming up September 28th that hopefully any of you would be able to attend, and you'll get an invitation for that probably next week. So I just wanted to highlight those elements, allow the Arts Council to kind of talk about if an October meeting is necessary for you as a group. You don't necessarily have to make a decision right now either on that, knowing that the city manager is requesting to bring back the goals, and so we can refine those. So I'd kind of toss it to you, Suzanne, to lead a discussion and see what the council would like to do.
Okay, well, I don't know if I'm just reading your comments in your summary. I mean, basically you were saying that give us more time to work outside of the meeting, but I personally don't have a problem if staff is not inconvenienced too much of having a short, trying to keep it short just to get Jesse's work turned around and kind of keep some momentum going. So having a 2-month break is always kind of dangerous, but I'm glad to hear from others. Yeah, Elizabeth?
I'm fine with an October meeting.
Out of my head.
Yeah, I'm also fine with no October meeting.
With no meeting or a meeting?
I'll say a no meeting.
Okay.
Like considering what the staff has been through, in terms of the work, I think it will be more productive. Probably the November meeting might be more productive than, just meeting in October.
Okay. Rosemary, did you have a thought on that?
I was going to say that I'm all for a short meeting just to do any necessary business to keep things moving along. Equally, but I don't have strong feelings either way. I understand that the staff are busy, so it seems to me in a way it's their choice.
Well, Ryan, if you see a way for us to get the deliverables done without the meeting, I mean.
So my recommendation would be, let's not do anything right now. Let's keep our meeting schedule as it lays out, and you're about, fingers crossed, to elect a chair, vice chair, to which I would work with them to, as well as the city manager, to determine what would be coming back to the group, and they would ultimately decide if there was going to be a meeting or not. From what I'm hearing from this group, you're very comfortable with doing sort of a single agenda item. It may be a very quick meeting, which I promise I can make it a quick meeting. And that would be more than fine. You know, I think I feel where Suzanne's going on the maintaining the consistency and the momentum we have. I think we had really great discussion today on the guidance that was provided in those goals. And I want to see and make sure that that's what's captured in that pros plan. And so as the Parks and Rec guy, that's my baby. I need that plan, and I need it to be exactly what our boards and commissions are putting forward. And so I think that also helps inform, you know, making sure we have the accurate depiction within there. That's going to be that much more credible when it goes to the city council. So very important that we do it right. I know Jessie wants that meeting. I could see the look in her eye. So maybe we leave it there if you guys are comfortable with that.
I would be, and especially since we don't have two, not that all of the members aren't important, but we don't have Eric and Amy here tonight. And I would hate to completely leave them out of the loop. That kind of feels like that's what we're doing by skipping over October. So I would like to bring them in, and maybe by then we'll have, I think we're looking for one more Arts Council member, right? Mm-hmm. So maybe that might happen too. So.
Well, I'll be your liaison that meeting because Sarah's going on vacation. So, and well-deserved. So I think we'll be set up. I'll be in contact and work with you guys as a group as a whole to confirm that meeting and what the agenda will look like with the new vice chair and chair. So is everybody thumbs up? We're good where we're at? Okay.
Yep. Thank you so much. Okay, so we're back to our final item of regular business, which is the election of a chair and vice chair to serve through the end of 2021. So I guess we're only looking at 3 months. Is that right?
So, yep. So, and it can be for longer if desired. So your regular chair and vice chair election cycle is to nominate and elect those officer positions in December of each year. So we have 3 months, 3 more meetings left, regular meetings on the schedule. The thought process was, you know, there hasn't necessarily been anybody banging down the door to take over these officer positions. I know that it's been a really tough year and a half. And in part, we were able to maintain our chair and vice chair from 2019 and 2020. In part because we wanted to maintain consistency. So back in May, we came and discussed the need to elect a new chair and vice chair. And I think we maybe cited the fact that we were going to be losing a member because her term was up and she happened to be our chair. So luckily, Erin was able to kind of stay on through some code allowances. So she was here through this meeting. And Amy is still on the board as vice chair. But we do really need to elect a new chair, and we could ostensibly push out the vice chair election to October since Amy's not here. And while I'm sure she would be happy with whomever was elected, she maybe wants to be involved in the conversation one last time. But we really, Suzanne, you've stepped in tonight to help us facilitate this meeting. We as staff do a lot of preparation and facilitation assistance, but there are certain things that a board leader really needs to handle. And so we are, hopeful that tonight we can identify a new chair, even just to serve through the end of the year, in large part to run these Zoom meetings and help us continue to move work forward. Process is very simple. It's outlined in your bylaws, but you, Suzanne, would open the floor for nominations for chair. We'd wait for nominations. You don't need a second. Then you close the floor, and then we just do a voice vote, roll call vote for each nomination, and then it would be the same process if we did vice chair tonight. So just opening it back up to you all to see if you feel comfortable at least moving forward with nominating and voting a new chair tonight. We can wait until October to nominate and vote in a new vice chair. But I'll end it there.
All right, thanks, Sarah. So I mean, let's get the chair position filled. It's just for 3 months. So do we have a nomination for chairperson for the next 3 months? The floor is open.
Rosemary's hand is up.
Oh, I'm sorry.
So I'm new and I don't want to speak out of turn, but I would nominate Suzanne, as you've done a good job this evening.
Thank you very much.
That's what I was also gonna say.
Okay, well, I will accept that as one person nominated, and we could take another, or someone can self-nominate, or anything. What you guys think? I don't think there's going to be any other nominations forthcoming. So chair nominations are now closed. Staff, please conduct a roll call vote.
Okay, Amy Barnes, Anu Meha.
Yes.
Oh, sorry, and to confirm, so the nomination that's on the floor right now is Suzanne Scone for chair. So Anu Meha.
Thank you.
Yeah, my vote for Suzanne.
Okay. Eric Gordon, Elizabeth Mitchell.
Yes, Suzanne.
Rosemary Moore.
Yes, Suzanne.
And Suzanne Scone.
Yes, thank you.
Okay, wonderful.
Okay,
Wonderful.
well, thank you very much. I appreciate the vote of confidence, and I'll do the best I can for the next 3 months, and we will take it from there. And hopefully we will be meeting in October, and we can fill the vice chair position, and we'll have maybe a couple more people here that night.
Yeah, that's great. Okay.
Can we just extend Amy's position, so that she can continue as the vice chair?
I think that it's implied right now because we've extended her position continuously. So I think that for now, Amy will still serve as vice chair. And then when we come back in October, I think we need to have another conversation with her offline. But I think when we come back in October, it would still serve us well to hold an election for a new vice chair, even if it is Amy who ends up taking the position through the end of the year.
Okay.
Okay, thank you. Is there any other business to discuss or items to report tonight? I have one thing to add. Last Friday night, we had Art Uncorked in the Sculpture Garden. It was sponsored by a number of Mercer Island businesses and implemented by the Chamber of Commerce. And it sold out. It was fabulous. I'm on the chamber board for a few more months, almost done there. It was just really, really welcomed and well received. The chamber cut down the hours because of COVID and only had online sales. And of course, it was a over 21 event. So we felt pretty confident that the people attending would be vaccinated. And again, also outdoor event. So, I mean, I was there, I've heard nothing but raves about the music, the art, the artists, the food, people were they're just so anxious to get out. And I think they were very respectful of, of each other's social distancing, and hopefully there won't be any, COVID resulting from that event. We certainly haven't heard of anything, but it's still early. So it was really well received. I would comment to the Art Council that once again, it was really sorry to see that the sculptures in the Greta Hackett sculpture garden were not highlighted. And I just really think we need to make that a priority. I did talk to some people. I think there's new LED lighting that is solar lighting that has a lot more lumens, and it's getting very inexpensive. So I think we have some opportunities there, and hopefully next year, I won't be on the chamber board, but I'll be on the Arts Council board, hopefully, and we can work more closely with them to find out how to really highlight that asset in our community. I mean, they were definitely, the booths were placed better so we could see the sculptures. They weren't hidden behind a booth or something, but they still didn't have we didn't honor them the way they could have been honored and celebrate them the way they could have been celebrated. So let's look at that opportunity next year. So any other things to report? Or
Suzanne, if I could jump onto that, I have to give the chamber a lot of credit on their planning process that they went through with us as city staff. They did a really good job with their follow through, and so we really appreciate that from a staffing standpoint. Where our challenges were lying a lot this year, and so to work with a partner like that was extremely beneficial.
And thank you. I mean, vice versa. I mean, we heard great things about the city and the permitting and the confidence. And I know right down to the wire, Jesse took the time to meet with the chamber director. And I mean, it was not an easy decision. I mean, you can imagine it was very, very difficult, but a lot of time and effort had been put in with the artists and the musicians and the planning. And a call was made with the help of city staff, obviously. So thank you very much. Well, if there's no other business to come before the Arts Council, the time is now 8:46 and the meeting is adjourned. However, as a reminder to members, please stay seated until the city staff has terminated the Zoom broadcast. Good evening and stay healthy, and good night.
Thanks, everyone. Have a great night.